Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. How are you doing this fine Friday afternoon? Well, as you can see, I'm back in the studio, and if you missed it last week, we were actually at the Barber Motorsports Park Museum right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. So if you want to see a little interview that I did with Jeff Ray, who's the museum curator, if you will, you may want to go back and look at that video. I'm sure we've got it posted now. And we're probably going to crank out a couple more videos, more in-depth behind-the-scenes looks at how the museum operates, all their different machines, and more importantly, down in the basement, they have this unbelievable restoration shop with some very talented people working in there. So if you get a chance, go to our channel, take a peek, watch that one. It's pretty interesting. Today, we're back to our norm, just going to answer a few questions, and it looks like we've got a few of them going ahead and stack up. And Doug is already throwing one out there. I have an 01 Yamaha R1, rebuilt carburetors, and it just backfires through the carburetors. Well, Doug, it sounds like you're getting too much fuel into the system and it's trying to spit it out. So I'm going under the assumption that you actually assembled it correctly. Now, when you put it back together, are you sure that you put all the settings back where they were when you pulled everything apart? And that's going to be very important, especially anything associated with the air-fuel ratio, particularly at idle, because that sounds like what you're running into. Evidently that setting is a little too wide open and she's just dumping fuel in there. So I would go back, look at your factory manual, see where those settings should be, and go back to where it was set from the factory as a baseline, and then go forward. Once you check that out, why don't you drop us a line and let us know if I was right or not. And hello to you as well, Curtis. And Jaden. My wife, I'll talk to her in a little bit. Let me hit the silent button. Jaden, I have an 85 ATC 250 ES bulletproof model. They're almost indestructible. And it smells like something's burning. Oh boy. Electrically, I would assume is what you're talking about. Well, don't ride it unless you want to turn it into a well-used barbecue pit. That's where the danger comes in. Once an electrical fire starts, it's kind of tough to put out unless you ride around with a fire extinguisher, strapped to the back of it. Give me some more information, Jaden, and maybe I can help you work it out. Hopefully it is not an electrical problem and you're just, maybe it's burning oil or something. So give me some more information and we'll see if we can help you with it. I'm having a great day, Doug, and thank you for watching our videos. Yeah, Brian is, he's following the same train of thought, Doug, as far as your R1. Sounds like a lean cough. That's two of us anyway that think that, so take a peek and let us know if Brian and I are correct or not. Hello, Johnny, hope you're doing well up in Tennessee. Big dog, I don't know about all that, Ben, but I just do what I can. All right, let's see what else we've got going on today. All right, Josh, he actually asked me this last week, and we didn't really get a chance to answer any questions, so I'm going to go and answer it now. Engine I'm really familiar with. I just rebuilt my 700R. It did not say to prime the oil pump, but how long should I let it run to see oil come out of the oil filter? Please help, I don't want to seize my rebuilt motor. Well, I agree. That's the last thing you want to do. But the good part is the pump is way down in the internals of the engine. It's almost at the bottom, so it should be immersed in oil from the get-go. And if you're unsure, depending on when you say you rebuilt it, how far you had to go to make sure that is actually pumping oil, I would suggest you take the plug out of the machine and just open up one of your oil lines, because there's actually a couple of oil lines that are on the exterior of the engine that go up and either feed or return, I can't remember which way it is, all the way up at the head, and just turn over the engine. Within, I'd say, 8 to 10 cranks, there should be oil coming out up there. If not, then you probably need to get worried and start doing some more investigative research, so to speak. So that would be what I would do. another one. Uh-oh, we've got some new ones coming in. John, he says he's in the process of restoring an 86 Suzuki LT 230. Well, hopefully we can, even though that is an older model, hopefully we can help you out with that as far as supplying you parts. Curtis is asking me, how do you change the front rear oil on a Polaris 570 midsize? Well, just about all the Polarises, they're pretty much the same. They have a certain type fluid that goes up front, and then a different type fluid that goes in quote, transmission differential in the rear. One's a demand drive, and the other one, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, and I probably have a AGL. I just happen to have some over on the shelf there. Now, we've done an oil change on well, several Polarises, but the one closest to yours would be an 850. So if you would, go take a peek at that. It's going to be the same fluid. The amounts and the torques and whatnot are going to be different, but that'll walk you through at least the process. And if you would, just look online and see what the quantity is and where the fill line is, so you can get that done. All right, Isaac is asking me, watching your videos, I have a 2020 Kawasaki TRX400 power steering stopped working. I took out the EPS brain and shook it, and it sounds like something inside may be rattling. Any suggestions on what I can do? Like there's a reset button. Thank you. I don't think it should be having anything loose rattling inside. And if you've got a 2020, if memory serves, the Kawasaki TRX has a factory 3-year warranty straight, out of the box. So don't mess with it. Go ahead and take it back to your dealer and let them figure it out. That is way too new for something like that to be going on, and it doesn't sound like that's going to get straightened out with a reset button. Hello, Pablo. Good to hear from you. Good to see you as well. Okay, Ryan has asked me, I just bought a Honda Nighthawk 750. Need to replace all the hoses. Can you help on hose sizes? Well, Ryan, not off the top of my head, but if you'll give the year of it, I bet you we can go to the exploded diagrams and at least come up with the part numbers. And most of those hoses are going to be form fitted. In other words, they're going to have a certain direction and a certain bend. So maybe a little tough just sourcing outside hoses that may or not be the correct size. So if you would, give us the year and let us see if we can help you with that. All right, I'm trying to get the, what are you laughing about over there, Evan?
My TRX400 overheating. Could the 7-year-old oil be the problem?
Well, my videographer / director over there just started laughing. I had to ask him what was so funny about it. And Craig sent in a question, my TRX400 is overheating. Could the 7-year-old be the problem? Well, yes, it could be. I mean, even if you didn't run the machine, oil, it has inherent, it'll break down, believe it or not, inside of the engine. And it has a certain amount of corrosiveness to it, especially after it mixes with a little bit of the combustion process that goes on in an engine, even though it's not directly or shouldn't be directly inside the combustion chamber itself. So yes, you definitely need to dump that out and probably run it for an hour or two and then change it again, to try to get it back up to snuff. All right, and they're sending you the diff fluid change on the 850. Boy, y'all are quick today. My magic little gnomes down in Florida. All right, Connor, I've got a 400 EX, and I was riding it after a new head, cam, and timing set, and it ran good for a whole day of riding. Then the next day it started to big and shut off. I assume you mean bog and shut off. Could it be a compression loss? Well, I kind of doubt it. But it's possible, but I kind of doubt it. The first thing I would go back and check is to go back and check your valve clearance, because if you did the head, the cam, the valves, and everything, they're trying to seat in, and almost immediately those valves start to wear in. And I don't know what manufacturer you used. So, I mean, an engine will be running, and then when you shut it off, it will not start again. That's because those valves, they're up against the cams ever so slightly, and that allowed it to run. But now when the engine's turning really slow, trying to get started, it can't quite build up the compression to fire it off. So put it at top dead center and make sure you've still got a little bit of clearance in there. And if it's completely, tightened down, then go ahead and readjust them. All right, Gilberto, he's asking me about a 2006 Yamaha Raptor with the dual DMC exhaust, and the pipes coming out of the engine are getting red hot. Any clues? Well, I've run into this on the 450s in the exhaust on like a YFC 450R that is so thin, it gets hot, of course, there, and those things will glow cherry red, and especially at night you can see them. I would imagine that the material on the pipes that you changed out is a little bit thinner, and that's making them glow. And as long as your plug readings are okay and it's not running too lean, then you ought to be okay. But do check your plugs, make sure they're not just bright white. You still want to have a nice brown tinge around the base of the spark plug, not the tip, but around the the metal. You've got the tip here, you've got the ceramic, then you've got the hook that comes up, but that metal area around, you want that to be at least a dark brown, if not a little bit of black in there as well. As long as that's not a solid white, I mean, you should be okay just doing a rough, what I call spark plug read as far as your air-fuel ratio. All right, Isaac gave me a follow-up question. I've done other things to the Kawasaki TRX. Do you think if I take it to the dealer, they're blaming it on something else? You know how they are with their warranty manufacturers are weird like that. Thank you. Most of the time when people modify their machines, it's typically doing lifts, and yes, the dealers have the right to say, well, no, we're not going to replace your drive shafts because you did a 4-inch lift, and now you're stressing the axles. Yours is a little bit different. You're talking about a steering component, and it's actually a steering box controller for the power steering that is having an issue. So I would be surprised if they say anything about that. They should be able to help you out anyway. I mean, because let's face it, you're not the first guy to modify a machine. I mean, look out there, all of them are modified in one way or another. So, Brittany is asking me, hey John, I have oil seeping out behind my front sprocket. Any idea what could cause this? Well, definitely it's going to be a seal that's back behind there. And the good part is on most machines, you should be able to just pull the sprocket, well, get the chain off, of course, first. Pull the sprocket and then remove that seal and then put it back in. I've actually done a couple of small seals. I did one on that little CT90 that sits over in the corner, and you should be able to just reach in there with a hook tool and pop it out and then push the new one in. The manufacturers typically make it easy for you to do it because let's face it, do you want to break apart an entire engine and split the cases just to get a seal on the outside? Yeah, that's asking a bit much. So I don't know which make and model that you've got, but chances are you should be able to follow the same procedure that I did on the Honda. And let us know how that works out. All right, and they sent you the specs on the 400 for the valve clearance. Isaac's got another question. I'm also having a battery issue when I charge it up and run it, then after a couple of minutes I can't start it anymore. Battery just dies like an alternator or something. Thank you. Is it a new battery? Because it's a little bit, they can fool you. You can charge them up and put a voltmeter on there and they may read 12.5 volts, but that does not tell you the condition of the battery unless you put a load on it, whether it be digitally or physically, like a load bank, where you can get an actual health of the battery to see what its capacity is. I mean, it can have the voltage, but not the capacity or ampicity, I think that's the right word for it, that gives it enough current to actually start over the motor and also hold the charge to where it can do it. Now, if you're sure that the battery's good and you're taking it out and you're running it for a good bit of time and it's just not charging, well, that's a whole nother game there. The battery's probably fine and you need to look at your charging system. So take a measurement with a voltmeter at rest. It should be north of 12.5. Start it, pop the throttle a couple of times, and then you should be in between 12.5 and as high as 14 volts when it's under a full charge. And if it's not doing that, well, then you start needing to look at your regulator rectifier and or your stator. And I think we have a video on that as well that'll walk you through it. So guys, if you would direct Isaac to the battery testing video as well as the charging system diagnostics. All right. Oh for you. Hello, John, it's me again. Don't have anything to ask, just say, well, you're very welcome. I enjoy my job, let's put it this way. It's kind of fun. If you told me I was going to be doing this 10 years ago, I would have told you were crazy. But hey, the CEO of the company says, hey, John, why don't you try doing a how-to video on an oil change? That was 5 years ago now, so here we are. But I love doing this stuff. It is fun. Pass on what little knowledge I have to you and try to help keep you on the road, track, or trail. I think I need to, what do you call that when you trademark that statement? Yeah, I need to put a trademark, copyright it on that one. All right, Jared's asking me, I bought a cylinder from you for an 07 Grizzly 450 along with stock piston and rings. Is it ready to install right out of the box? Will it need honing or anything? I assume the rings may need to be filed down. That's exactly what you'll need to do. You will need to go ahead and clean it up though, because even straight out of the box from the factory, there's still some debris left. Not really debris, just it needs to be cleaned up. So just clean it up with contact cleaner, and then you need to go ahead and set your ring gap. And take your time doing that because that's very important. If you put in the rings and they're not gapped properly, it's better to have too big of a gap than too small, because when they come up to temp, they have to have room to expand. And if they're touching when they're not fully heated up, guess what? They're going to wear prematurely, and then you're going to end up rebuilding the top end again. I don't think you want to do that. So just make sure you take your time and get your gap correctly. Get it done correctly. Now, we haven't done a Grizzly 450, but I've done several machines, and I walked through the gapping process. So if my guys will find a good example of that, whichever one I did last, it may be the Ranger 350 that I gapped the rings on last, and point him to that to where he can get that done. All right, Brian's asked me, we're going in the Wayback Machine here. I have a question on my 86 Honda GL1200 hydraulic clutch master. I rebuilt it. It's been slow to return to normal position after a couple of gear changes. There's slack in the handle, but no adjustment. All right, I'm a little bit concerned. When you say rebuilt it, I assume you bought the kit for it, which basically has the plunger and the spring, and you just put it in the existing bore. And what, especially on a machine as advanced in years, and I would know about that, as that 86, is did you do a careful inspection of the cylinder, the clutch master cylinder itself? Because what I fear may be going on is there may be some corrosion or wearing away of the material in there that's not allowing even that new piston and seal kit that you put in it to really do its job, and maybe fluids escaping around it. So unfortunately, you probably need to go ahead and break it apart again and take a peek. But before you do that, make very sure that you've actually bled it correctly. And because a lot of times it's much more difficult to bleed from up top going all the way down low, because let's face it, you're trying to force air all the way from one point down to another. So you may want to consider filling it in reverse if you have a pump to do so before you go tearing into it. Sam, yeah, I'm definitely more of a myth than anything. You're asking me a question about my buddy's quad, a 2005 400 EX. Boy, that one just keeps coming up and coming up. The starter went out and we put in a new one, and we're on the third one, aftermarket, no problems, good voltage to starter, and not overused. Do you think it's just a fairly junk aftermarket alternator starter? Sam, there are good aftermarket companies and there are not so good ones. And you may have two starters that look the same, but if you open them up, they're not the same. I've seen some that, you know, this quality equipment, but then there's some others that come from some countries where they look the part, but they can't walk the walk. So I'd say definitely after a third one, I would at least go to a different manufacturer. I'm pretty sure we carry a couple of different ones on the website, and if we carry it, we're going to stand behind it. If you're trying to shave a little bit of money off of having to do an OEM. Of course, OEM, it's going to last the longest, it's going to be guaranteed to work, et cetera, et cetera. But do take a look to see if we've got anything that fits your bill. And guys, if you would, direct Sam to an aftermarket one that you trust. What else do we have going on here? The Real Deal's asking me, so when I fill in oil with doing a filter change on the YFC450R and I fill it to where the manual says it will look full before I start it for the first time. Yes, because that is actually a dry sump system. So if I remember correctly, you put in X amount, whatever that is. Well, let's say it holds 2 quarts, because I can't remember all of them. I mean, that's why we have Google and, you know, manuals on the wall. Let's say it holds 2 quarts, but there's no way to put 2 quarts into that that catch can, or not catch can, but the reservoir. It only holds, you know, 1 or 1.5. You put in that amount, you run the machine for just a few seconds, that pulls it into the engine itself, and then you top it off. So that's probably what you're running into. So yes, it will maybe take more than one filling to get it to the appropriate level. Jared is asking me one more follow-up. Should I put oil on the cylinder after cleaning it? That's not really necessary. The way you want to do your rings is to actually wet down the ring with your fingers before you put them on the piston itself. Because if you glob a bunch of oil on there, you're going to interfere with the break-in process or the bedding process that the rings need to go through. And I'm pretty sure we did a video on that explaining, you know, exactly how to wet down with oil the rings and what happens inside of that engine when you start it for the first time, the break-in. So that's important. Blaine, you're wearing me out, son. Go buy a manual. You can do this. Aren't you an ME or something like that? You should be able to figure this out. But yes, the day we start selling parts for that particular engine, I will rebuild yours for you for free. Oh, Jay, he asked me about a while back about the R6 clutch basket. Drop dowel pin in the oil pan, got rattle noise out of clutch basket after watching your R6 build over and over. I changed the bearing in the collar. But I hope you're telling me that my video helped you straighten it out. So life is good. Let us know if that actually did work out for you. All right, what else do we have? Tom's asking me, I have a 2013 Polaris Ranger 800 EFI. It has a new battery, but the power steering light keeps after, I'll assume, resets coming EV. I'm not sure what you're asking me there, but I'm guessing that the power steering light keeps coming on even after you do resets on it. I don't think the battery would have anything to do with that. It sounds like the actual power steering controller is acting a bit flaky with the light going in and out, if I understand that correctly. I think there is a separate ground for that, so check its ground. I believe it goes to the frame if memory serves, and make sure that it hasn't gotten loose. Oh, there's the rest of it. It keeps coming on even after a reset. Well, once again, we need to take a peek at the actual controller for the power steering, because it's actually a separate unit than the main controller for the engine, or the CDI box, or ECU, depending on what you want to call it. Blaine, you may be waiting for a while, dude, but you know, we'll do what we can. From last week, we've got a question from Henry. Yamaha Grizzly 450 burning oil, what could cause that? It's going to be the usual suspects, Henry. I mean, it's either going to be your piston / rings are worn a little too much and it's letting oil come up from the bottom, or it could be your valve guides, and valve seals. I mean, that's the two places where oil can get into the combustion chamber. So it's a matter of elimination, figuring out where it's possibly coming from. Now, as far as diagnosing that, you can do a leak down test, and that compression test will give you an overall just snapshot of what the engine's doing. With a leak down test, you'll hold the crank at top dead center, take out your spark plug, and then put in the leak down tester, and then apply back pressure into it. At that point, you can listen and see if it's actually forcing air past the piston, or if it's forcing it up and past the valves up into your either your intake or exhaust. So I would say go ahead and do the leak down. Chances are, and when I say chance, 85–90%, it's going to be your piston rings. And that would lead me to the question, well, what wore out your rings so quickly? And I bet you haven't been maintaining your machine quite as well as you should, and particularly your air filter, because what happens a lot, you let your air filter get old, it breaks down, you suck in a bunch of dirt, and guess what it does? It's going to eat the piston rings and the wall of the cylinder alive and start burning oil. So that may be what happened to yours, but I'm kind of guessing at this point. But do a leak down test and then let us know what you find. All right, Ryan gave me a follow-up question. Getting back to the hoses, it's a 2003 Nighthawk 750, 721-mile barn find. That is a time capsule there, dude. Clean the carb, clean the gas tank. Apple cider does work. Okay, hoses, battery, and oil filter, and air filter. Well, we should be able to help you out on most all of that, and you're definitely heading in the right direction. Guys, if you would swing Ryan to the correct direction and see what parts we can help him out with on his 750 Nighthawk. Okay, Tarmac is asking me about a 2008 Yamaha R1. This particular bike has an electrical Sumitomo female connector into male connector on the air temperature sensor on the left side of the air intake. Okay, I accidentally ripped out the wires from this small connector, and now even if I wire it back up, it will be too short to reach. What's the best way to extend these two loom cables? I'm afraid you're just going to have to patch in a length. It surprises me that when you pulled out the connections, when you remade them, that pulled away any distance that to where they could actually reconnect. I was hoping you were going to ask me, well, what are the pinouts? Well, I can find that out, but that's obviously not what you need. I'm afraid you're just going to have to extend the wires on one side or the other, and doing so, I would advise using whatever length of wire that you're going to need. Solder it, and then before you actually put the wire, solder the wire together, put a section of small heat shrink. That way it can seal all of that together. And if you can find heat shrink that actually it's like a gel inside of it, that'll make it waterproof. Not only will protect the wire and the connections that you've made, it'll also seal it up from moisture, and that's going to be very important, especially depending on where your bike is. All right, Michael's asking, well, it's actually a shipping question, wondering when we're going to start shipping internationally again. That's not so much up to us as the different countries out there as far as how they're going to handle import and export of materials, and that's basically what we're talking about here. But as soon as they do set a standard across the board, yeah, we're going to crank it back up. Now, what date is that going to be? I have no idea. But guys, if you would mark Michael's question, and maybe we can get back in touch with him when we are able to start shipping outside of the U.S. again. Well, all right, guys, there goes 30 minutes. It goes by quick. Once again, it's Friday, so I get to escape now. Even though this needs a lot of work, I'm tired, so I'm going to go home. Well, listen, we just want to say thank you for coming out, spending a little time with me, shooting some questions my way. Once again, I enjoy doing it, and as long as y'all still keep coming around, we'll continue to doing the live sessions. Next week, there's a chance I may be on location again somewhere. To be determined. My multimedia team doesn't even know what I'm up to, but I'm telling you first, I may be somewhere else next Friday, or this coming Friday now. At any rate, we just want to say thank you for spending time with us, shopping here with us at Partzilla.com, and we will see you next Friday from somewhere. Y'all have a great day, and God bless.